I've got a few minutes before I pick her up.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to an early morning Zoom on the Pacific Coast, but it's a perfectly late morning on the East, so welcome, everyone. So let's start out with sharing some wins. Gloria, you had something you wanted to share with us.
Yes. I have struggled some because we've had more rain, and I've been doing a lot of walking outside, so I haven't done quite as well with my physical activity, but it's been neat to still control the eating and to do my every 2 to 3 hours and make the right choices. And last night we had a small group meeting for our Bible study, and I didn't go for the desserts at all. There were lots of choices of even higher carb, regular foods too, and I just felt so strong. It's just such a good feeling when you can make the right choices. And I did eat some. I knew that there'd be tempting things there, so I went not real hungry. I ate some protein before I went, and then ate vegetables there. There was a great salad and stuff. So it's just you just feel so much better when you make right choices than wrong ones. It was encouraging. So I'm excited.
Thank you for sharing that.
I'm definitely down my 6% plus, so that's exciting also.
Perfect. And you're coming into the spring. I was talking to a couple challengers as well as clients on my program this week, and there's something about we've turned the corner of winter and we can actually see the spring and summer is coming, and it feels like it matters more, or it's easier to stay focused because warm weather's coming. Days are getting a little bit longer again, and
the light helps, doesn't it? The light helps.
There's an optimism and just a positive direction for a lot of people. So I love that. All right, someone else. What's a win that has happened for this week for you? And I see Kelly and Karen are on muted. If you are on and you want to unmute, let's see. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. And that way, if either of you want to talk, even though I can't quite see your faces, but we'll unmute you just the same. Okay. So everyone's ready if they want to talk. I will give one, and I know Nancy's going to share something with us a little bit later, but we were at our Super Bowl party on Sunday, and it was at an event center where you couldn't bring in your own food, but you could order, and they had great salads, and so ordered a big old chicken salad and lots of water. And, I just kept filling up my water, and people around us were having other things, and it wasn't a big deal, kind of like Gloria. And afterwards, I felt felt very proud of myself. And then it actually made it easier to stay longer the next day because I had already had some success behind me, recently. Good morning, Judy. We're just talking about wins for the week. So Kelly, Karen, Judy, anyone want to share?
Well, I'll share. I had a busy evening yesterday. I had a meeting in downtown DC, which involves, I have to drive 10 minutes to the train station, get on the train, and that takes about 40 minutes. And then the meeting was 2 hours and got back. So it was a whole ordeal from like 4:30 to 10. And of course I had to eat. And so I'm on the 5-in-1 plan is the plan I'm following during the challenge. And so And I'm kind of low on my meal replacements, so it was a little tricky, but I planned. So I'm very happy that I planned. I brought what I could snack-wise. I had and I was concerned about drinking the water because on the train you can't use the bathroom and whatnot. But it worked out great. And they served food. And when I got to the meeting, the food hadn't arrived yet, and so I'm waited to see what it was. And I had brought tuna packets with me, but I'm like, I'm going to conserve it if I can eat what they brought. And I thought they'd bring like sandwich trays, and I would pick at the turkey or whatever and take that off on the sandwich and eat it. But when it came, it was just nothing but pepperoni pizza and cookies, trays of cookies. And I'm like, all right, that's not going to work. But you know what? I didn't feel deprived at all. I had my tuna, and it wasn't gourmet, but I grabbed it really quickly. I had it at home in these little packets, and I was just really happy that I brought it and was satisfied with it. And I had taken a little squirt of mustard and put it in a baggie too, so I had the mustard to mix with it. And I thought for a minute, people are going to complain. It might be a little smelly, but I kind of prepared it in the hall before we started, and people were eating during the meeting. So it was kind of in the beginning of the meeting, people were eating, and they had their pizza, and I had my tuna, and it was great. I just felt really empowered, I guess, and it's like this is what we have to do to take care of ourselves. And,
That is so awesome, Judy. I love it. You
yeah.
planned ahead. The planning makes all the difference, doesn't it?
Right. Yeah.
Exactly. I was going to say the same thing Gloria did. So it's like leave nothing to chance, right? And
Right.
we're on purpose. We know before our decisions are made before we get there, and we know what's going to happen. That takes so much of the battle from the decisions. So I see a little note from Karen. She's typing it in. She said her mic doesn't work, but she has eaten fish 3 times this week, had all of her water, and today she has an interview and she's ahead of her water intake. So that's awesome. Has anyone tried any new exercises, either from one of the demonstrations from the challenge or maybe something you haven't done before over the last month or so?
I actually did try something pretty recently. It was called Kangoo, and it sounds like kangaroo, which is actually pretty fitting because what you do is you wear these boots that have like little circles on them. So when you stand on them, you actually naturally bounce. And so it's terrifying at first because you are afraid that you're going to fall. But then once you start stomping along to the music and like moving your legs, it is amazingly fun, but super tough because it's like having weights on your feet while you're trying to dance. And yes, that was very difficult, but it was a great workout. So if you guys hear of it in your vicinity, definitely check it out. It's a good time.
What a fun idea. I've never heard of such a thing, but almost that playful atmosphere that makes us want to participate. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hey, Nancy, did it hurt your knees at all?
No, like I think it's really the stance because yeah, you have to like have a certain stance and then yeah, like a lot of I think the muscles are just like in your like thighs and your legs. So it wasn't too bad on the knees. Yeah.
I've never heard of it either.
Yeah. I was so tired afterwards though. I felt like I couldn't walk anymore. So yeah. Oh.
Well, I went to my first yoga class this week, and that was fun. It was hard, and I realized my balance definitely needs improvement, which is great, right? Because that's that, using all those little muscles, which, instead of just one repetitive muscle. So that was great for me. It also has given me some ideas to work on at home that are so simple to do it while I'm, have the TV on or while I'm watching a webinar. I can do some of those stances and it's quite easy. I don't need any equipment. Yeah.
I didn't do it this week, but something that's fun is those trampoline gyms are really fun, and you can go and they do have classes, but you can just take some kids, or I've seen just adults go by themselves, and you can do as much or as little as you're able to do and just bounce around and have fun. And they have the one I've been to has a dodgeball court on trampolines, which is really fun. They're opening, I've done that when I visited Seattle, and now they're opening one in my neighborhood, so I'm excited about that.
There's one right near us, and I haven't actually planned an event, but I want to because it sounds like a ball. Yeah. Oh, gosh. New recipes, new non-scale victories, new scale victories. We would love to hear any of them. Okay. Nancy, you had prepared just a couple of thoughts for us this morning. Would you go ahead and share with us that?
Absolutely. Actually, I have a presentation. I don't know if I'll be able to share it.
Yes, you can just share my screen.
Okay, let me, I don't know how to get to the main menu on the top. Oh, okay, share.
And it might be at the very bottom of your screen. It'll say share screen, but it could be.
It says, nope, cancel. Share from Dropbox, Box, Google Drive, web, bookmark, and whiteboard. Is it a whiteboard? I'm so confused. Okay. Sorry, guys. Apparently, I'm having technical difficulties. I'm just going to try one of them and see if it works. And if not, I'll just talk from memory, and then maybe we can send out the slides.
Oh, sure. That's great.
Okay. So sorry, I won't be able to share anything, but I just wanted to talk through how to silence your inner critic. And so the reason I came up with this topic is because we have a reading this week around cultivating a healthy mind. And I feel like that's really important to do because your thoughts translate directly into actions. And sometimes we're our own worst enemy, and that comes directly from that inner critic. And so that's really the small part of your brain, and it's really just a tiny, tiny part that's really concerned with emotional safety. And it always wants you to keep yourself in your own comfort zone, in your own personal bubble. And if you ever try to venture out of it, it's going to say to you, no, stop, like, this is not a good idea. And so I just wanted to talk to you guys about it so that you know when to recognize when that inner critic is talking to you rather than your own true thoughts, and then some ways that you can deal with it. So the name of the game really is that the inner critic is never going to go away. And I think that's a common misconception because sometimes you think to yourself, oh, like once I reach this level in a company or once I reach a certain age, I'm just going to feel totally confident. I'll know what I'm doing. And this inner critic is going to go away. And the truth is, it's really never going to happen because it's part of your brain. It's there, again, just to keep you safe, even though the way it keeps you safe sometimes limits you from doing other things. So what we need to do is just learn how to thrive with our inner critic and really have it work with us rather than against us. So ways that we can really understand if your inner critic is speaking to you is recognizing that it's going to be harsher critique than necessary. So if you have these inner thoughts in your brain that, you know, are thoughts that you wouldn't say to a loved one or a loved one wouldn't say to you, that's a really great sign that it's your inner critic speaking rather than your own true thoughts. Another way is sometimes it just feels like a broken tape player that's repeating the same message over and over again. So it might just be saying like, oh, like you can't do this, you're not qualified, you're not able. And so it's something that just like, it's like you're not thinking the thought, you're just hearing it internally. And so that's a really great, I guess, identification that it's your inner critic speaking to you and not your own true thought. So that's the way to recognize it. And a different way to like differentiate it from your normal thinking process is that, again, your inner critic is very black and white. You know, it's one message, it's the same, it's self-critiquing. And so when you're truly like doing like or using your critical thinking skills, it's not black and white, you know, there's shades of gray and you're trying to like care for yourself. So I'll just use an example because it is kind of like difficult to think through it. But like say I'm trying to understand if I want to run a marathon and, you know, it's on my list of things to do. My inner critic, like I've heard this before, is, you know, you're not fit enough to run a marathon. What are you thinking? You're not able to, you're not fit. Like running is for other people, not for you. And so that's my inner critic. But if my critical thinking process and what my true thoughts were to kick in, it would sound more like, well, you know, a marathon is something I haven't done before, so I don't have a lot of experience with it. So maybe I should talk to people who have run a marathon before and like get some tips from them or understand how I can do to prepare myself. So you can see there's like a slight difference where your inner critic, again, is trying to limit yourself. Whereas what you want to do, like with your critical thinking skills, is to move yourself forward. And again, it's self-caring rather than self-critiquing. So the way that you deal with your inner critic in the end is really, first up, always, is identifying when it's speaking to you. And then when you identify it, don't internalize the message. So don't ever say like, I can't do it, you know, it's always the inner critic again, and it's not the true core of yourself. So one tip that I have for you is if you hear your inner critic and you know it's, speaking to you, what you can do is you can actually create a character for it and then again, separate it from yourself. So a way you can do that is pick 5 different messages that you hear from your critic now and again, and then use those messages to characterize it and pick 3 adjectives for that critic. So my critic might be a little bit more like depressing, or it might be hysterical sometimes. And, use those adjectives then to kind of personify it. Like try to describe a character in your mind that would resemble your critic. Like, is it more like a professor who is trying to critique you all the time? Or is it more like the cheerleader who's jeering at you? And you can definitely like have fun with it and play with it, like create, your definite persona in mind, and, think of different clothes your character would wear or what cars it would drive. And, this is just really important, again, to separate that critic from yourself. Because once you do that, then the next few steps are really easy, because other ways that you can deal with your critic is, just laugh at it or question it and say, like, when it's speaking to you, speak back and say, like, why do I not feel that I'm not able to do this? Or, I don't believe that what you're saying is true. I do believe that I can run a marathon, or that I can lose my amount of weight to reach my true goal. So those are, again, some ways that you could do it. But my favorite response for dealing with your inner critic is actually just to say, you know what, thank you for your input, but I've got this. Like, I don't really need to listen to you right now. And I think that's so important, because again, your critic is a part of yourself, but it's just a very scared part. And so if you get angry at it, it's not going to help alleviate the situation. It'll just get more scared. So instead, just speak to it with confidence, and then understand again that, you have control over it. And it's kind of like the stop, challenge, and choose method. So stop your inner critic from speaking and really challenge it, and then choose to basically use your own thoughts. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys. And yeah, feel free to give me feedback. You're on mute right now, by the way. Sorry, Paula.
That was amazing. Thank you. What a whole new little angle on the stop, challenge, and choose. Because I know even in our workbook, and those of us who are on the intake Shape for Life, that is one of the topics. It's our, as long as we keep things in our mind, they are stronger over us. But sometimes just speaking them out, and Nancy, exactly what you were saying, it's just a different angle of it. I love that. So when we're going to, when we're tempted to go into the cupboard and grab the brownies that our husband had left there the day before, or whatever, and just say, okay, ask it, is this going to get me closer to my goal or further? And for a lot of our exercises, we say it out loud, because then when it stays in our mind, it's a really more control, and it seems like a bigger decision. But when we speak it out loud, it puts it in perspective. And I think that's kind of what you were saying. It's like, okay, is this going to get me closer to my goal or farther? Then answer yourself out loud. Farther. Then why would I want to do this? And, we have a dialogue. It puts things in a whole different angle than if we just keep thinking, oh, but I want it. Yeah. Someone else. How did that? Can you guys kind of share personal experiences on something similar that Nancy was talking about? Thank you.
I just want to say, I thought it was a really great perspective. I can't come up with an example of it, but just that whole idea of like thinking, I want to eat this, or I can't do this. I'm not going to be able to reach this goal, as you said, Nancy, and putting it and saying, is that really me saying that? Is it truth coming from me? Or is it this inner critic, and giving that, being able to visualize a person or a character with features, like you said, and clothing or whatever, however you make up. I can see how that would be really helpful. So thank you very much. It was great.
Um,
Try to talk here, but I know I echo, so I'm sorry. But I know that for myself, it's so hard for me to separate the inner critic from my own thoughts. So I love the idea of giving them a cartoon. I like almost think of like a little angel and the devil sitting on your shoulders, you know? Or there was a cartoon we used to watch as a kid where it was live action, but there was like a little cartoon buddy that was always with the kids. So it's like, okay, that's what my critic's like. He's like a, or she, I guess it's a he apparently, frustrating little, Debbie Downer that's always complaining or frustrated or irritated. So it's a nice way to think of it, separating it from my own thoughts. I like that. It never even crossed my brain. So thank you for saying that. That was really powerful.
Yeah. That it was a little bit Nancy kind of reminded me of, that, and maybe someone else could expound it. I know that I don't have the facts exactly right, but that kind of a famous saying where the Indian chief was talking to the young boy and about that he's going to have an inner struggle and he'll have the wolf and whatever fighting always, and he looks to the chief and said, well, if this is going to be fighting, who will win? And the leader said, the one that you feed is the one that wins. And I think it kind of goes a little bit with that inner critic idea, Nancy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's so cool, putting a character with that thought process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think I sometimes definitely hear myself thinking to myself that, yeah, I can't do something, or, there's just a lot of self-doubt. And I think it's important just to understand, like, is that really what I think and what I feel? And what can I do to really rectify that situation? And so, yeah.
Because if we were speaking to someone else, let's just say Peg was speaking to me with those same words that she would speak to herself and say, and she was saying, I don't know if I can make it. I always have these lofty goals of losing 20 pounds or staying healthy. And I don't know, I'm just a failure. She said that out loud. Immediately I would come and I would believe what I was saying. Like, are you kidding? Do you not see the possibilities within you and what's capable and how wonderful you'll feel with just a little bit of, self-control right now is going to produce the results you're looking for. And with that, you're going to feel amazing, and so it's kind of funny, this internal dialogue that is all there, but I don't think we talk about it enough. So nice.
I'm sorry. For me, I mean, that's, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. One of the most difficult things in this health journey is not just only believing that you can make these changes, but having achieved some success, believing that you have, and dealing with the new you. I mean, it's you, you're you still. But I mean, let's be honest, people look at you differently, people react to you differently. You're capable of new things potentially that you physically weren't able to do before. And it's hard to get that in your head that's really true. It's like it's hard to get your head to meet up with the physical changes you've made. And that can be a struggle. It's been a struggle for me and for a lot of people. I know it is.
Yeah. Well, I love this topic you chose. This was great. And I know we're coming close to the end. If anyone wants to share, please just hop on and talk. But Nancy, thank you for bringing that idea to our thinking. I really feel like that's going to help a lot of people, and I know there's different words for it. There's negative self-talk. Some people say that. Some people say red light, green light thinking. But the idea of putting a character with it, to help us differentiate what's real and what we're imagining, because it comes down to asking yourself, what is truth? Is this really truth, what I'm thinking? No. Then why am I buying into it? Why am I believing? And just having the courage to stand up and say, enough's enough. I'm not going to go down this path, or I'm not going to let this character, dictate what I do or don't think, and the actions that follow. So any parting thoughts before we close up?
I guess now that we've been talking about it, and I was thinking this while Judy, you were mentioning the whole self-doubt process. But I think that's why, health coaches are so important, because they're like the counter to your inner critic, because they're telling you that you can do it, and they're celebrating your success with you. And so even if you don't trust yourself sometimes, like, just know that you always have someone on your back and rooting for you the whole time. And so we'll be there too to like help you deal with that inner critic. So I think that's really what the role of health coaches is.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Nancy.
Yeah.
That was great. 'Cause you're right. Sometimes it is a hard journey to walk alone, and it's a private side of ourselves that we don't always aren't comfortable opening up to everyone. So finding that support person who believes in you and will speak truth when it needs to be truth, but also will speak positive truth and encourage you the right direction. Yeah. So have a great weekend. We're getting ready to go into weekend. I know that can be tricky for some people, but as we started on the beginning, and Gloria talked about planning ahead, Judy talked about planning ahead, and that's the key in being successful on our health journey, is leaving nothing to chance. So have a great week. We're going to try to plan another Zoom huddle at the beginning of next week. So I'll watch for that on your email, and we'll get that posted. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.